My daughter sold the house and cried. I told her to learn gratitude. Hi everyone! Before we get into today's video, I need your help. We've noticed that the channel's reach has been dropping a bit, and one of the best ways you can support us is by subscribing. It's quick, free, and helps us keep bringing you new and interesting stories. Your support means the world to us, and together, we can grow this channel. Thank you so much. Now let's get to today's story. I'm writing from a temporary account for obvious reasons, and I've changed some details to protect my anonymity. When Nikolai brought home the first blueprint, I was standing at the kitchen counter peeling potatoes. I remember how he unfolded that large sheet across the table, brushing away breadcrumbs from breakfast, his calloused fingers trembling slightly with excitement. The paper crinkled under his touch, and there it was, our dream sketched in precise lines and measurements. "Look, Vera," he said, his voice thick with something between hope and fear. "This will be ours, every brick, every beam. Ours." I wiped my hands on my apron and moved closer. The drawing showed a 2-story house with a wide porch, 5 rooms, and large windows facing east to catch the morning sun. It looked impossible. We had barely enough money for groceries some months, and here was Nikolai talking about building a house. "Where will we get the money?" I asked, not to discourage him, but because I needed to understand how this dream could become real. "We'll build it ourselves," he said simply. "With our own hands. It'll take years, maybe 10, maybe more. But we'll do it." And so we did. The first summer, we cleared the land. Nikolai would leave for his shift at the factory at 6 in the morning and return at 4 in the afternoon. By 5, we were at the plot, pulling out roots, leveling the ground, marking boundaries with wooden stakes and string. Our daughter Anya was 3 years old then, playing in the dirt with a small bucket, making castles out of the same earth that would soon hold our foundation. I remember the smell of that earth after rain, dark, rich, full of promise. I remember how my back ached at night, how my hands developed calluses that never quite healed. I remember thinking, this is what love looks like. Not flowers or words, but dirt under your fingernails and muscles that scream when you wake up. The foundation took 2 years. Nikolai mixed concrete by hand, bag after bag, until his shoulders grew wider and his face became permanently creased from squinting in the sun. I carried water in buckets from the neighbor's well, made sandwiches we ate sitting on piles of lumber, and kept Anya entertained with stories about the house we would live in. "Will I have my own room, Mama?" she would ask. "Yes, sweetheart, with a window that looks out at the apple tree we'll plant." "And will we be happy there?" "We'll be very happy." By the time the walls went up, Anya was 7 and could hand Nikolai nails without being asked. She learned which tool was which, knew the difference between a Phillips head and a flathead screwdriver. She would climb the ladder carefully, bringing her father water, and he would ruffle her hair and call her his little builder. Those were hard years, but they were good years. Every evening, when we stood back and looked at what we had accomplished that day, a new row of bricks, a window frame installed, a section of roof completed, I felt a pride so fierce it made my chest hurt. This wasn't just construction. This was creation. We were building more than shelter. We were building a legacy, a place where our family's story would unfold. The roof took the longest. Winter came early that year, and Nikolai insisted on finishing it before the snow. He worked in freezing rain, his fingers so cold they could barely grip the hammer. I stood below, holding the ladder steady, calling up encouragement, bringing him hot tea in a thermos that barely stayed warm in that wind. "Come down!" I shouted once when the rain turned to sleet. "It can wait!" "No," he shouted back. "Our daughter needs a roof over her head." She had a roof. We lived in a small rented apartment in town. But that wasn't what he meant. He meant she needed this roof, the one we built with our blood and sweat and love, the one that would stand for generations. The day we moved in, Anya was 12. She ran through the empty rooms, her footsteps echoing on the bare floors, her laughter bouncing off walls that still smelled of fresh paint. Nikolai and I stood in the doorway of what would be our bedroom, holding hands, watching her joy, and I felt complete in a way I had never felt before. "We did it," he whispered. "We did it," I echoed. That night, we slept on a mattress on the floor because our bed hadn't arrived yet. The three of us lay there in the darkness, listening to the house settle and creak, learning its sounds. Nikolai snored softly. Anya curled against my side, her breathing deep and steady, and I stared at the ceiling we had built and thought, this is everything. This moment. This is what life is for. Over the years, the house became more than walls and windows. It became the backdrop of our life. The kitchen where I taught Anya to bake bread, where flour dusted the counters and yeast perfumed the air. The living room where Nikolai fell asleep in his chair every Sunday afternoon, newspaper draped across his chest. The porch where we sat on summer evenings, watching the sunset behind the apple tree we had planted, the one I had promised Anya she could see from her window. Every room held memories like treasures in a box. The small dent in the hallway wall where Anya had crashed her bicycle when she was learning to ride indoors on a rainy day. The spot on the kitchen floor where the linoleum was slightly darker because I had spilled beet juice and never quite got the stain out. The bedroom windowsill where Nikolai carved our initials one winter night when he couldn't sleep. The house was not just where we lived. It was proof that we had lived, that we had loved, that we had mattered. When Nikolai got sick, the house held us. Through the doctor visits and the treatments and the long, terrible nights when he couldn't sleep for the pain, the house remained steady. I would walk through the rooms at 3 a.m, touching the walls he had built, and I could feel him in every brick. His strength, his determination, his love. He died in the spring, in the bedroom we had shared for 18 years. Anya was 26 then, living in the city, working at some job I never fully understood. She came home for the funeral and stayed a week, helping me sort through his things, both of us moving through the house like ghosts, unable to believe he was gone. After she left, I learned what loneliness really meant. Not just missing someone, but missing them in specific places. Missing Nikolai in his chair, missing his footsteps on the stairs, missing the sound of his voice calling me from the garden. But the house comforted me. I would sit on the porch he had built and feel his presence. I would cook in the kitchen, where we had shared 1,000 meals, and remember his laughter. The house held him for me when my arms could not. I stayed there alone for 3 years. I worked at the school cafeteria to pay the bills, tended the garden, fixed things when they broke. The roof leaked one winter, and I climbed up there myself with a bucket of tar and patched it. My hands weren't as strong as Nikolai's, and the job wasn't as neat, but it held. That's what mattered. It held. Sometimes Anya would visit, usually for a day or two, always in a hurry to get back to the city. She would look around the house with an expression I couldn't quite read, something between nostalgia and discomfort. She never stayed in her old room. She always slept on the couch, as if she were a guest rather than someone who had grown up there. "It's so quiet here, Mama," she would say. "Doesn't it bother you?" "I like the quiet," I would tell her. "The house talks to me." She would smile the way people smile when they don't understand, but don't want to admit it. On Anya's 30th birthday, I made a decision. She was visiting for the weekend, and we were sitting on the porch, drinking tea as the sun set. The apple tree had grown tall and full, its branches heavy with fruit. A breeze moved through the leaves, making them whisper. "Anya," I said, "I want to give you the house." She looked at me, confused. "What do you mean?" "I mean I want to sign it over to you. It should be yours. Your father and I built it for you, for our family. You're that family now." "Mama, no. This is your house. Where would you go?" "I'll stay here, of course, for now. But one day, maybe soon, maybe not, I won't be here anymore. And when that happens, I want to know that the house is in good hands. Your hands." She was quiet for a long time, staring out at the garden. Finally, she said, "Are you sure?" "I've never been more sure of anything." We went to the lawyer the following week. I signed the papers that transferred ownership from me to my daughter. When it was done, I took the old key ring from my purse, the same one Nikolai had used when we first moved in, and I placed it in Anya's palm. "This is yours now," I said. "Take care of it. It has taken care of us." She hugged me then, and I felt her tears on my shoulder. "Thank you, Mama. Thank you so much. I'll honor this, I promise." I believed her. God help me, I believed her. For the first few months, nothing changed. I continued living in the house, paying the utilities from my pension, maintaining the garden. Anya would call once a week, always cheerful, always busy. Sometimes she would ask about the house. Was the furnace working? Had I checked the gutters? Did the porch need painting? "Everything's fine," I would tell her. "The house is strong." Then, one day, almost 6 months after I had given her the house, Anya came to visit without warning. She arrived on a Saturday morning with a man I had never met. His name was Dennis. He wore expensive shoes and had the kind of smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Mama," Anya said, "we need to talk." We sat in the kitchen, the same kitchen where Nikolai had unrolled that first blueprint, where I had taught Anya to bake bread, where we had shared thousands of meals. Dennis looked around with an appraising gaze, and I felt something cold settle in my stomach. "Mama," Anya began, "Dennis and I have been talking, and we've made a decision. We're going to sell the house." The words didn't make sense at first. They were sounds without meaning. "Sell?" I repeated. "Yes. It's the practical thing to do. Dennis and I want to start a business in the city, and we need capital. This house is worth a lot of money, Mama. It's just sitting here. We could use that money to build something real." Something real, as if this house, this life, wasn't real. "But you live here," Dennis said, and his voice was very careful, very measured. "We're not going to throw you out. We've already found a nice apartment in town, smaller, easier to maintain, much better for someone your age." Someone your age. As if I were ancient, as if I were helpless. I looked at my daughter. She wouldn't meet my eyes. "This is your decision?" I asked her. "It's the right decision, Mama. You'll see. This house is too much for you anyway. Too much space, too much work. The apartment will be better." "I see. Don't be upset. This is good for everyone. You'll be closer to shops, closer to the clinic, and Dennis and I can finally start our future." I wanted to scream. I wanted to take her by the shoulders and shake her and ask her if she had forgotten everything. Forgotten her father mixing concrete until his hands bled. Forgotten the nights we spent building walls. Forgotten the promises we made. But I didn't scream. I didn't shake her. I stood up slowly, carefully, as if I were very fragile, and I said, "When?" "When what?" "When do you want me to leave?" "Oh, Mama, don't say it like that. You're not leaving. You're moving. We've already put the house on the market. The realtor thinks it will sell quickly. Maybe 2 months? 2 months. 43 years compressed into 8 weeks. "I understand," I said. "Thank you for telling me." Anya looked relieved. "You're not angry." "No," I lied. "I'm not angry." They left that afternoon. Dennis's expensive car kicking up dust on the road Nikolai and I had walked 1,000 times. I stood on the porch and watched them go, and I felt something break inside me that I knew would never heal. That night, I walked through the house, room by room, touching everything. The walls, the door frames, the windowsills. I spoke to Nikolai as if he were still there. "She's selling it," I told him. "Our daughter is selling our house." The house creaked in response, settling, and I imagined it was him answering. "I know," I whispered. "I know you're disappointed too." The next 8 weeks were a special kind of torture. The realtor came, a brisk woman in a suit, taking photos, making notes, talking about curb appeal and market value. People trooped through, opening closets, testing faucets, discussing whether they would tear down walls or add a second bathroom. I stayed mostly in my room during the showings, sitting on the bed, listening to strangers discuss the dismantling of my life. "The kitchen is dated." We'd have to redo the floors. But the bones are good. Solid construction. Solid construction. Nikolai's hands, my sweat, our love. The house sold in 6 weeks. A young couple with a baby. They seemed nice enough. They talked about raising their family here, and I almost felt happy about that. At least it would be a home again, not just an investment. Anya came to help me pack. She moved through the rooms efficiently, wrapping dishes in newspaper, folding linens into boxes. She chattered constantly, filling the silence with talk about the apartment she had found for me, about the business she and Dennis were starting, about the future. I barely spoke. I wrapped my life in brown paper and tried not to remember. On the last day, after the moving truck had left, after the new owners had signed the papers, Anya and I stood in the empty living room. Our footsteps echoed on the bare floors. The walls looked pale where pictures had hung. The windows seemed larger without curtains. "It's just a house, Mama," Anya said softly. "We'll make new memories." I looked at her then, really looked at her, and I saw that she believed what she was saying. She truly didn't understand. To her, this was just a building, just wood and brick and glass. She had forgotten, or maybe never knew what it cost to build. Not in money, but in years and strength and love. "Yes," I said, "just a house." We walked out together. I locked the door one final time and handed the key to the realtor. I didn't look back. I couldn't. The apartment was small and clean and utterly soulless. It had white walls and beige carpet and windows that looked out on a parking lot. There was no garden, no porch, no apple tree. I unpacked my boxes and arranged my furniture and tried to make it feel like home. But it wasn't home. It was a place to sleep, nothing more. Anya called often in the first few weeks. "Are you settled? Do you like it? Isn't it nice to not have to worry about maintenance?" "It's fine," I would tell her. "Everything is fine." Months passed. A year. I went to work. I came home. I existed. Anya called less frequently. The business, I gathered, was not going well. Her voice became strained, her cheerfulness forced. She stopped asking about the apartment and started talking about stress, about pressure, about problems. I listened and made sympathetic sounds, but I felt distant from her troubles, as if they were happening to someone else's daughter. Then, one evening, almost 18 months after I had moved out of the house, there was a knock on my door. When I opened it, Anya stood there, and she was crying. Not delicate tears. Not the kind you wipe away politely. She was sobbing, her face swollen and red, her whole body shaking. I stepped aside and let her in. She collapsed on my small couch and wept into her hands, and I sat beside her and waited. Finally, the storm passed. She wiped her face with the back of her hand and looked at me with eyes full of anguish. "It's gone," she whispered. "Everything is gone." "What's gone?" "The money. The business failed. Dennis left. He took what was left and disappeared. I have nothing, Mama. Nothing." I felt no satisfaction at this news, only a deep, heavy sadness. "And the house?" I asked, though I already knew. "Sold. Gone. I can't get it back. Those people are living there now with their baby, and I—" She started crying again. "I made a mistake. Such a terrible mistake. I should never have sold it. That was our home. That was Papa's house. How could I have been so stupid?" Now the tears came faster. "I thought I was being practical. Dennis said it was the smart thing to do, that we needed to invest in our future. But there is no future now. There's nothing. And I can't even go home." I let her cry. I didn't offer comfort or platitudes. I just sat there, feeling the weight of what she had lost pressing down on both of us. When she was quiet again, I spoke. "You're not crying because of the house," I said. "You're crying because now you understand what I gave you. Not walls or land or an investment. I gave you my heart. Your father's heart. Our lives. Everything we were and everything we worked for. And you traded it for money. She looked at me, stricken. You want me to tell you it's okay, I continued. You want me to say that houses don't matter, that things can be replaced, that love is enough. And maybe that's true. Maybe love is enough. But gratitude matters too, Anya. And you weren't grateful. You didn't see what you had until it was gone. I'm sorry, she whispered. Mama, I'm so sorry. I know you are, but sorry doesn't rebuild what was torn down. We sat in silence. Outside, cars moved through the parking lot. Someone slammed a door, a dog barked. Normal sounds of normal life. What do I do now? Anya asked finally. You learn, I said. You learn that some things, once lost, can't be recovered. You learn to live with consequences. And most importantly, you learn gratitude. Real gratitude. Not the polite thank you for the gift kind. The kind that understands the value of what you've been given. The kind that honors sacrifice. Will you forgive me? I looked at my daughter, this woman who had been a little girl playing in the dirt while her father laid foundation stones. This woman who had handed me nails on a ladder. This woman who had forgotten. I already have forgiven you, I said. But that doesn't mean the hurt goes away. That doesn't mean we can go back to how things were. You broke something, Anya, something precious. And while I can forgive you, I can't fix what you broke. She nodded slowly, understanding dawning in her eyes. Learn gratitude, daughter, I said softly. It's the one thing no one can take from you, but it's also the easiest thing to lose. Don't make the same mistake twice. She stayed for another hour. We drank tea. We didn't talk much. When she left, she hugged me at the door, and I hugged her back. But something had changed between us. Some innocence had died. After she was gone, I sat in my small apartment and thought about the house. I wondered if the young couple was happy there. I wondered if their baby was sleeping in Anya's old room. I wondered if they knew they were living in a place built by hands that had loved completely. I hoped they did. I hoped they would care for it the way it deserved to be cared for. That night, I took out an old notebook one I had kept for years but rarely wrote in. I opened it to a blank page and wrote, We lose houses. We lose people. We lose years of our lives. We lose these things not because they are taken from us, but because we forget to be grateful for them while we have them. Nikolai and I built that house with our hands and our hearts. We gave it to our daughter because we loved her. She sold it because she didn't understand what love looks like when it's made of brick and wood and sweat. Maybe one day she will understand. Maybe one day she will build something of her own, and she will finally know what it means to create something greater than yourself. Until then, I will live in this small apartment with white walls and beige carpet. I will go to work and come home. I will exist. But in my heart, I will always live in the house that Nikolai and I built. The house with the wide porch and the apple tree. The house where our daughter learned to hand her father nails. The house that held us when we were happy and comforted us when we grieved. That house is gone from my hands, but it will never be gone from my memory. And maybe that's enough. Maybe memory is the only house we truly own. I closed the notebook and turned off the light. Outside, the parking lot was quiet. Inside, I was quiet too. And in that silence, I could almost hear it. The sound of a house settling for the night, the creak of floorboards, the whisper of walls that remember everything. Home.